and you can make it through the Jordan. Let me tell you something. You can't wait until it makes sense to you. I'm talking to somebody right now who's getting ready to make some decisions concerning your ministry and concerning your own personal life. This is not about me. I'm preaching for you. Somebody here even is watching me by television. This message is designed for somebody who's seeking God for direction. Is there anybody in a place in your life where you need to hear from God? Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. When I get through and you get through going through what we got to go through, when we come to God's house, I don't want no preacher playing with my feelings and tickling my emotions. I need a word from the Lord. What is God saying unto me? What is a word that God would speak to me at this time? I want to know what God is saying. And these people in Israel had come to a place right at the brink of Jordan. They hadn't got to what God had promised. They had just come through a wilderness experience and wondering if at all it was going to take place. In one of the verses in the 3rd chapter, it even says here in the 3rd chapter and 4th verse, it says that ye have not passed this way, therefore. It tells them to go through the Jordan. But he says, I understand that you have never passed this way before. Anybody here in a place where you've never passed before? He says, I know you have never passed this way before, but step into your miracle. You can't wait until the water opens unto you. Now, it would be easy to step. Here's the Jordan, big river flowing downward. It would be easy to step. God says step, and just when he says step, the water's open. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Anybody can do that. Huh? Look at your neighbor and say, even you can do that. In other words, you're at the brink of the Jordan. You're trying to get to the promised land, and all of a sudden the water's open, and the ground is dry. Hey, there is a God. But that's not what happened. God tells them while the water is overflowing at the brim. I mean, Jordan is higher than it's ever been this time of year. And God says, step into the water. And watch this. How would you have stepped, Marshall? Would you start singing before you step? All right. Step. Ooh. Step. She'd have been singing an hour and ain't stepped one time. Or they'd have done like brother right there and said, step into this water. Shoot, I'm gone. Let me tell you something. What do you do when God says step? Some of you right now, God is challenging you to go on and come on, I want to do something with you. I want to do something with your ministry. I want to do something with your career. I want to do something with your life. I want to do something with your gift. But you are too afraid to step. Look down at your neighbor's feet. Look down at their boats and say, get them boats out there in the water. When you were younger in the Lord, it was different. It was different. When you were young in the Lord, it was different. You tell God, you lay fleeces before the Lord. Lord, now if you talking to me, do this. I need you to do this. I need you to let this towel be wet in the morning and let it be dry after the rain. Then I notice you. I don't hear nobody talking to me. But hey, look at your neighbor. Tell him you've been around too long now for that. Look at him and say, you ought to know God's voice by now. You ought to know when God is trying to move you forward. Now, brothers and sisters, you're not a babe in Christ anymore. Many of you, it's time to take the training wheels off. It's time to get rid of the pacifiers. It's time to get rid of the crutches. It's time to move from sight to faith. It's time to move from I hope so to I know so. It's time to move from milk to meat. In other words, it's time to get your feet wet. I don't hear nobody talking to me. You want to step into your miracle, you're going to have to risk getting your feet wet. Getting your feet wet is symbolic of getting uncomfortable. Getting into slippery conditions where if God don't help you, I don't hear nobody talking to me. Anybody here in a position where you're going to have to step and you realize the risk, but you believe God is telling you to do it? Tell somebody, I got to do it, I got to do it, I got to do it. Look at them and tell them, you too, you too, you too. I got to step. Somebody told me what they wanted to do in ministry a few days ago, and that's because they felt an inclination from God. And sometimes when you feel an inclination from God, other people don't understand. You called me about an inclination you had, and some of you have told me about inclinations you've had. And if you're not careful, you'll listen to people and they'll talk you out of it. There's another even worse scenario. You can listen to yourself. I don't hear nobody talking to me. You know God was talking to you, but you listen to yourself because of your fear. And inside of fear, there is torment. I don't care. God does not tell you to move because you're perfect. You sit there and say, I can't move because I ain't the one. You are like unto Moses when God told him, he immediately began to espouse his personal inadequacies. He began to say, I can't do this because I can't speak. I can't do you want me to go to jump and tell Pharaoh? Look at your neighbor, tell him God knows all about your faults and all about your shortcomings, and he's still saying step. Anybody here want a miracle? A miracle is something that only God can perform. It's beyond human ability to make happen. Anybody here want to get to what God has promised? Anybody here know you can't make yourself get there? You can't figure out how to get there? You can't work in no kind of capacity that is of human ability to get there, but you need God to help you to get there. God has said, I'll help you only if you got to be willing to step. You've got to be willing to step, and the people had to be willing to step. I know it sounds crazy, and God tells you to step. I know it sounds crazy. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Jordan, remember, is at flood stage, and people are saying it won't work. I know the circumstances are against you. People have told you you don't have the education to make that happen. You don't have the ability to make that. I know you ain't trying to do that. Not you. You've never been that before. You don't know how that works. You can't do that. Look at your neighbor. Say, if you're not going to tell me to step, look at him. Say, speak to the hand. I can't listen to people that's trying to hinder me from obeying God. You can't afford to listen to anybody. You're already behind time. You've already made enough mistakes. You've already experienced enough failures. You've already tried it your way and messed up. You've already gotten into situations that were not by accident, but by human error. But God says, I still want to help you get there. Let me tell you something. As much error as the children of Israel did in 40 years, they murmured, they complained, they were dissatisfied, they talked against Moses, they did a lot of things, but God still had a promise for them. And I'm telling you, you have not forfeited your promise. If you can hang in there, you can get there.